and welcome to your green drinks. Who's excited to be here? Yeah! Okay, if anyone, we'll be in here for about an hour, so if anyone needs to use the toilet, go back out the door you came, and it's around the corner. And also, can I ask you to put your mobile phones on silent or turn them off? Thank you. So as I said, we'll be in here for an hour, where each of our speakers is going to speak for about 10 minutes, and then we're going to have some Q&A, after which we'll go through these exit doors and enjoy some refreshments. In light of the recent federal budget, I would like to say that Perth Green Drinks is not associated with any political party. And we also don't have any formal stance on the nutritional value of green smoothies. I'd like to thank the volunteers who have helped out tonight on the door. We had Lorca and Hannah. Perth Green Drinks is completely run by volunteers, so without them, tonight would not be possible. Also Ali, who is our camera person up the back, and Flavia, who does all the work organizing these events. And our two wonderful sponsors, Central Institute of Technology, who provide us with the venue and food, and Little Creatures Brewery, who provide us with the beer. So tonight's theme, does anyone know what tonight's theme is? Waste! It's not a waste of time to be here. In nature, cycles are used endlessly, so materials get broken down. And human economics, we're not so crafty, we're a bit more linear, and so we can make plastic out of oil and glass out of sand, but we're not so good at doing the reverse. Does anyone know how many tons of rubbish it's estimated that humans create every year? Any guesses? How many tons? A bit over 2 tons per person. This was actually on the invite. It's estimated at 2.5 trillion pounds of garbage, rubbish every year. And these are materials that do not disappear easily. So this is a serious issue for the planet. Perth Green Drinks were about solutions. So here to help us talk about the problem, but also understand what we can do from a solution point of view, and also to help us dream about a garbage-free world, we have our panel. First, we have Jenny Campbell. She's been involved in the environmental and waste management fields since 2000. We also have Adam Johnson. He's the founder of Garbology. It's such fun to say. Say it with me now. Garbology. It's fun. It's an entrepreneurial business disrupting waste management. And we also have Rebecca Prince-Ruiz, who's an educator with the award-winning Earth Carers program, which some of you may have heard of. So I'm going to first invite Jenny to speak. I'll tell you a little bit more about Jenny. She is the founding director of N-Cycle Consulting. She's been involved in the environmental and waste management fields in public and private sectors since 2000. With a wealth of experience in developing and implementing waste management plans in industry sectors such as hospitality, manufacturing, construction, and mining. Jenny was the recipient of the National Australian Women in Construction WA Triple Bottom Line Sustainability Award earlier this year. Please give it up for Jenny! Sorry, I forgot to mention, sort of stealing thunder there, Jenny. Each of the speakers will talk for 10 minutes. And we want to keep to time, so after 8 minutes, we're going to give them a warning bell that sounds like this. It sounds like this. A little something like
this silence.
This. Yeah. And then, so if you hear that, that just means they've got 2 minutes left to wrap up. Thank you. Claudia. Claudia, password. Is she up there?
Welcome everybody, thank you very much for the introduction there, Susanna. So I am really impressed to see so many people here tonight interested in waste. It is really encouraging and it's exactly what's needed because we have quite a job ahead of us to sort out what we're going to do with all the waste that we generate. So what I am going to do once I get the slides on the screen is to paint a picture in terms of where WA is at in terms of waste generation, how much we're currently recycling, and also I'm going to focus more on the waste generation and what happens with our waste and recycling from the commercial and industrial sector, the construction and demolition sector, more so than the household sector. So if you'd like to know more about what happens to our waste and recycling from home, then we might cover off on some of that either in the other speakers or in the panel discussion. Just really briefly, for those who don't know, I work for a company called Recycling Consulting and we are waste and recycling consultants. And our vision is there on the screen. I won't go through that, but we provide waste and recycling services to a whole range of organisations. So in terms of the waste situation for WA, there's a comparison there for WA compared to the other states in terms of waste generation per capita and the diversion rate. So the grey columns there show how much waste is diverted, and the green line at the top shows the generation per capita. So as you can see, we generate the most waste per capita, but we recycle the least. In terms of the three sectors, waste is classified into municipal solid waste, which is what we generate at home, commercial and industrial waste, which is what we generate from businesses, and construction and demolition waste, which is what's generated from construction sites or demolition sites. Nationally, we generate over nearly 13 million tonnes of municipal solid waste, and we recycle about 30% of it. We generate 14.5 million tonnes of C&I waste and recycle about 33%, and we generate about 16.5 million tonnes of C&D waste and recycle about 38%. So this is national data. The environmental impacts of waste. Obviously waste represents a complete waste of resources. It's a waste of the materials, but it's also a waste of the energy that went into making those materials. In landfill, particularly organic material, when it breaks down in landfill, generates a gas called methane, which is around 21 times more potent than carbon dioxide to the environment. It also, in the landfill organics, produce a liquid called leachate, which when it enters the groundwater can potentially contaminate the water stream. And also landfills are a source of community complaints such as odour, noise and vermin, so I don't need to paint a more bleak picture. In terms of government, just a brief note on what policies are out there. In Australia, the federal government has a national waste policy, and this was established in 2011, and it's administrated by the Department of Environment in Canberra, a much longer agency name, which I won't go into. In WA, we have a waste strategy that was released in 2012, and this was after around 10 years or more of not having a strategy. So it's really exciting to now in WA have a strategy for waste. And there's also a business plan that supports this strategy that's implemented each year. The strategy in WA has some targets so that we can see how successful this strategy is for the state. And those targets are set out under those three classifications for waste that I showed earlier in the pie chart. So for 2015, we're looking to achieve in the metropolitan area a 50% recycling rate for the household sector, and by 2020 a 65% recycling rate. At the end of last financial year, or 2012 financial year, we were sitting at around a 40% recycling rate, and these are the latest available figures. For C&I sector, the target's 55% for next year, and in 2012 we're at 45%. And C&D, we're looking to a 60% recycling rate, and we're currently at 38%. So to go into a little bit more detail about the commercial and industrial sector here in WA, I'm just going to choose one of those sectors, which is offices. So we're all familiar with what happens in offices. Most of us work in an office. And how many people can put their hand up to say that they're in their office, their recycling system is good? How many people's office actually has a recycling system? That's pretty good. That's good to hear. And is that mainly for paper? What about bottles and cans? So, to give you an idea, the typical composition of an office's waste stream is around 55% paper, around 10% cardboard, beverage containers around 5%. Then there's the reusable stationery like folders and pens and other bits and pieces from the stationery cupboard. And the rest is what we call general waste. And when we talk about general waste, it's typically all that material that's not recyclable. It does include food, which is technically recyclable or compostable, but it's all the other bits and pieces that aren't technically recyclable. So in essence, we could, in our offices, achieve around a 90% recycling rate. At the moment in Perth, a lot of our buildings are achieving nowhere near that level of recycling. Some of the best performing offices are probably around a 50 to 60% recycling rate. Some of the offices are not going to the extent of recycling the ad hoc items like electronic waste, batteries, toner cartridges, and other items like that. But that's certainly a part of the waste stream and certainly something we should be recycling. But there is a sustainability rating tool that many of you have probably heard of called Green Star, which is administered by the Green Building Council of Australia, which many of the new buildings are starting to be rated. So you may be familiar with some of the new buildings that are being developed and built in the CBD, targeting a rating. And these buildings are required to have a decent storage area for waste and recycling. So that it makes it easier for these new buildings to be able to recycle and for those building users to recycle. And it's not just the users' ability to recycle, but it's the access for the vehicles to be able to service the building, which is really important. Construction and demolition waste is what I'll cover off on the last few slides I have here tonight. This is probably the biggest problem we have in WA in terms of the material going to our landfills, and it's predominantly been because it's been pretty cheap to send our construction demolition waste to landfill. Last week, and I know many of you heard, but we have actually had an increase in our landfill levy, which is really exciting. So for putrescible waste, which is not the construction demolition material, putrescible waste is that material that breaks down in landfill. It's material we generate from home and from businesses. The landfill levy has increased from $28 to $55 per tonne. And for construction demolition waste, it's gone from $12 a cubic metre to $40 a tonne. So you'll notice a change in the units even further. So that's good news for the recycling industry in WA and for Commonwealth. So So in terms of the revenue that that levy creates, around 25% of that revenue will go back into recycling programs and recycling infrastructure in WA. So when we just look at C&D waste alone, comparing it again to all the states, this chart looks at data from, that's not good. Looking at data from all the other states, it does go back to around 2007 data, I believe. But it is, this demonstrates again that WA is lagging behind in the recycling. But there are solutions out there. There are some really great recyclers of the construction and demolition material. And these recyclers are working really hard to jump through all the hurdles that government throw at them to meet all sorts of specifications, requirements for the products that they produce. The materials that they can accept are the ones that are listed there. And the products that they actually remanufacture are road-based, and these materials are used as foundation for our new roads, and they meet the specifications as required. They're also drainage products, recycled sand, and as I said, there's a lot of civil contractors and local governments that are using these materials. And they actually can't get enough material through the gate. So there is quite a disconnect between the recyclers not being able to get the material and the construction companies not actually being fully aware of where to take their inert materials. So that was part of the work I did with the construction companies and the waste and recycling industry to try and close that disconnect, and was the basis for the water one. As I worked with the Waste Management Association and other industry sectors to host a range of events just to bring those people together and start the conversation so that people start realising there's actually solutions to the waste problem and to get more recycled products used. So in summary, WA lags behind the other states in terms of resource recovery. And there's potential for a dramatic increase in our recycling rates from the C&I and C&D sectors, certainly now that the landfill levy has increased. And the policy framework and the economic drivers are here, and they're the best they've ever been. So I feel that it's time for action, and that time is now.
Thanks, Jenny. I just did a quick calculation.